Welcome to another edition of Girl Talk. I'm Elizabeth Vargas.
I'm Andrew Vargas.
We have special repeat guests in the house today. We have
Mel, medical device sales rep, and I'm representing newly San Diego. And so lived in Burbank and Manhattan Beach.
Well, thanks for coming back.
Thank you so much
excited.
for having me back.
And I'm Sophia. I'm from the desert.
Queen of the desert, honey.
Queen of the desert. I'm happily married, 23 years, and I sell real estate.
Okay. And we have a special surprise for you guys today. Dr. Barke is back.
Woo!
Let's learn about some STDs today, Dr. Barke.
Great to be with you. I'm not sure why you had me back, but it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. So I came up with this, I thought, because I'm newly single and I've told everybody on the podcast many, many times, it's scary. And, you've done my blood work. I'm clean. I feel great. I feel healthy and I want to stay that way, right?
Excellent.
So Andrew, he lives in Washington, but, he knows all the people down here. And we're going to primarily focus on Orange County dating and why I'm scared. And I'm going to tell you why I brought you on in just a moment. Because I know that your brain works in wonderful ways as far as educating us on things that we would never know about. And what I want to be educated on today is being single in Orange County and STDs.
Absolutely. I can make it really simple for you if you want.
Okay.
Don't have sex until you're married. The end.
No.
But that's not going to stop STDs because they could already have it before then.
So what do you look for? So here's my thing is I'm scared. First off, we're going to get into a whole nother topic of date rape drugs. But let's start with the STDs. I mean, this is all something that single women think about. And you are single?
Not anymore.
You have a boyfriend now?
Yeah.
What?
Wait, what?
Since when?
I didn't know when to drop that one.
But I'm the only single one?
Oh,
Andrew's single?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's new.
That's good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Women are not the only ones that worry about STDs, so it's not unique to girls only, but it's a very important topic to talk about for sure.
Thank you. And because I want to stay clean and I worry about it. And I know there's you can get STDs. So I need to educate myself. So when I go out with a guy, I know that you can get like a kissing lip disease, right? You can get like bumps all over your lip.
Herpes.
And those can be transferred to your other lips.
Oh,
right?
Well,
can they or can they not?
Since you brought it up, let's talk about that.
Okay, herpes, simplex something.
yes, I would love to be educated.
Yeah, educate us on herpes because that's the biggest one.
There's two basic types of herpes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 usually is above the waist. That's cold sores. And by the way, you can get that from kissing your grandma when you were a little kid. And many people have cold sores. They can break out when their immune system is being depleted, if they get too much sunshine and so forth.
And you transfer it by touch skin.
You transfer it directly by skin-to-skin contact.
It's permanent, right?
Well, it's permanent from the standpoint of you always will have that virus in your body. You may not have outbreaks frequently or at all, which is why, by the way, herpes is so contagious, because you can carry the herpes virus, never have had an outbreak in your life, but still be able to transmit it to other people. So that's type 1 herpes. Generally speaking, it's above the waist. Type 2 herpes is genital herpes, transmitted the same way through direct skin-to-skin contact, in this case, sexual contact. Type 1 herpes can go below the waist. When it does, it's usually very, very mild. Type 2 herpes rarely, if ever, goes above the waist.
What's the difference?
So if you need an org chart to figure this out, we can draw it out.
So it's an actual different virus.
It's the same virus?
It's a similar virus, but they are distinctly different. And the typical symptoms of herpes, we know about cold sores. Many of us have had cold sores.
I get cold sores. I used to. I don't lately, but yeah.
And then genital herpes is similar. It causes a shallow ulcer. It's often very painful, often accompanied with viral-like symptoms. You feel achy, flu-like symptoms, you feel run down, and then you have an outbreak of the herpes.
Oh, don't they call that COVID now?
They call that COVID. That's right.
As you're describing it, I giggled.
Sorry,
I was like,
everything COVID's fault.
I know.
You have COVID, I have herpes.
That's right.
Herpes.
Wait, I have a question.
Sure.
So, so I had gotten shingles years and years ago.
Yeah.
I have lupus, and so
What is shingles?
It's my immune system was super low at the time as well. I was on a bunch of immune suppressants. But I was told because that is a form of, it's like a bunch of little, like it was the most painful thing. And I got it like right on the back of my leg.
Shingles is related to the herpes virus. It's not the same. Shingles is a reactivation of the chickenpox virus.
Which I had chickenpox when I was 6.
Most of us did.
Well,
I
had chickenpox.
when I was a little kid, I had chickenpox.
My mom made me play with somebody who had chickenpox. Just
She put us in a room with chickenpox people.
Yeah.
when we were little.
Same.
Sure.
Well,
So
I think once you have chickenpox, though, it's automatically in your system, isn't it?
once you have the varicella virus, which is the chickenpox virus, that virus remains in your body for life. Occasionally, it can come out and play in the form of shingles.
Huh.
We're not exactly clear what causes shingles to come out. We do know, by the way, you mentioned COVID, that people that have had recurrent COVID boosters because of the immune dysregulation often end up with shingles.
Really?
And what else has happened is chickenpox is a relatively benign childhood illness. Everybody and their mother had it if you're older than 50 or 60 years old. But the pharma industries came out with a vaccine to prevent kids from getting a relatively benign illness. The result of which is because there isn't a lot of chickenpox in the community, so people like me or Andrew that had chickenpox when we were a kid, we are not being re-exposed to the chickenpox. So our immunity to chickenpox wanes over time. So it's then becomes more likely that we will get shingles even though we had natural chickenpox. So there's an argument that because of the chickenpox vaccine, we're seeing more episodes of shingles because people aren't getting reinfected. If I got chickenpox, it'd probably be very mild and it would boost my immunity, and likely I would never get shingles. But because there isn't natural chickenpox now floating in the community, because we're pushing the chickenpox vaccine on everybody, that shingles is becoming more prominent, as well as prominent because of the nature of the COVID vaccine.
So if I'm at a bar and I just got off the beach, so I've got like a little tank top on, like a beach bar.
Yeah.
And somebody has shingles on their leg. I didn't even know you
It
get
goes
herpes
in
on
like,
your
so
leg
it's
till
the
just now.
tiniest little, it was like
Can they give
3
it to
little
me?
dots.
If I lean up against
and
them?
it was horrifically painful.
Yes,
though.
it looks like kind
nerve.
of like a blistery
I
rash.
thought that I had a chemical burn.
So you can't give somebody shingles.
Oh, you can't. So I wouldn't get it at the
There's
bar.
an exception to that. If you've never, ever, ever had chickenpox, you never received the chickenpox vaccine, and you came in contact with somebody that had shingles by direct contact, they gave you a big hug and they had a shingles rash on their shoulder or what have you, then you could come down with chickenpox. It's the same virus, but if you're naive to chickenpox or the vaccine and you are directly exposed to somebody that has shingles, technically you could come down with chickenpox.
And is it true that if you get chickenpox as an adult, it's far more extreme and dangerous than if you were to receive it as
Sure, which is why when I was a little boy and the kid down the street had chickenpox, my mom dragged my brother and I down the street to expose us to the kid that had chickenpox.
We had a play date.
And, 3 or 4 or 5 days later, I don't remember, my brother and I got chickenpox. It wasn't a big deal. You get the rash and it itched a lot. Oatmeal bath, calamine lotion.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You know,
I have a scar.
I have a chickenpox scar on my
I got
nose.
I have a scar right here and I picked my pox.
Right.
I got one right here.
I had chickenpox I remember in my mouth, in my nose, like on the bottom of my feet.
Right. And we used to do this
Is
because
it warts?
No. Warts is different. But we
okay.
used
I
to
guess
do
I'm-
this with chickenpox
Okay.
because we knew as a child it was relatively benign. And as an adult, for whatever reason, if you are chickenpox naive and you get chickenpox as an adult, it's a much more severe illness and it requires attention and medication and so forth, and it potentially could be dangerous.
But it's not a herpes, anything to do with herpes.
It's different. It's a cousin of the herpes virus. They're related, but one has nothing to do with the other. You don't get chickenpox from herpes. You don't get herpes from chickenpox.
Gotcha.
But they're all bump based, right?
Well, these are like
Well,
tiny. It was a
kinda.
tiny
She said
little.
it was like looked like a little rash.
No,
kinda
it was the
bumpy.
tiniest little cluster. Like
The shingles we're talking
Yes. They were 3 tiny little, like, it looks like little, like, water like the tiniest little, like, little dots, like pinpricks of a, but it's the most painful thing. It went like down to like
So what is the herpes then? Can it go down your leg?
No, herpes usually is localized. You can get herpes on your skin, but the type of herpes, STD herpes that we're talking about is cold sore herpes and then genital herpes.
So STD herpes stays on your genital, doesn't go anywhere else.
Correct.
Can it spread?
Generally speaking, no.
So you get it where you get it and it won't.
It'll always go there?
That's correct. Usually if you get genital herpes and you have another outbreak, it goes away and you have another outbreak, it's often, not always, but it's often in the exact same location.
You can't infect yourself more?
No, you don't infect yourself more.
Because I would be concerned if you got herpes and you're just like putting on lotion.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Spread it everywhere.
Like I was just masturbating. What happened?
All right.
Isn't there a stat that like
it's all over my face.
that like half of all people by the time they die end up with herpes?
Oh, sure. It's extraordinarily common, both genital and oral herpes. Most people that have herpes don't know that they have it, but they have the virus in their body, and that's why it's so contagious.
But you can take Viagra for that, right?
For herpes, no, you can't take Viagra for
Viagra
that.
doesn't have anything.
Starts
No,
with a V.
Valtrex.
Valtrex. I'm like, what? You can take Viagra for herpes, right, doctor?
You can take Viagra to try to get herpes. That's what you can take.
Oh my God.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So if it's a virus, there's no cure.
Correct. There's treatment. There's antiviral medication like Valtrex that will suppress it, that will quiet it down, that'll help it go away. And it's important that you treat early and often if you have herpes.
Do you treat the down here the same as your lip? Because I use that herpes stuff for my lip when I get a cold sore because I get bad ones.
There's acyclovir ointment that you can use for oral herpes for sure.
And you shouldn't kiss them enough. When I haven't got one in years, but when I used to get them, they were huge. You're not supposed to kiss or give a.
I'm
just asking. I'm saying I could if I had
asking for a
friend.
I'm asking for a friend. If I had an outbreak on my mouth, could I give it to the genital?
You can. Yes, you can. When in the midst of an outbreak, that's when you're most contagious, oral or genital herpes.
So when you transfer it from your lip to that,
yes.
This is a different type than this type. Do they just marry?
They do. Similar. Type 1 herpes that goes below the waist usually is pretty mild.
Okay.
Type 2 herpes, which is normally below the waist, rarely goes above the waist.
Do you have to have an open cut for that to happen, the transmission?
That's the problem. You don't. You can not even know you have herpes, have sex or kiss somebody, transmit the virus that they now get without even knowing. And that's part of the problem.
Well, why is it so crazy to have herpes? If people
well, it's not so crazy, but it can just be uncomfortable and it's no fun to have it.
Uncomfortable what?
And in its most extreme form, it can be painful and very uncomfortable.
People are saying herpes.
You just said like
why is herpes such a bad thing?
It lasts for life. It's gross and it lasts for life. That's why everyone's...
But we got chicken pox. That's gross and that lasts for life.
I know, but when you talk about things that touch each other constantly.
Juices?
Yes. Then it starts getting gross.
Right. And chickenpox, generally speaking, is not thought to be a sexually transmitted disease. But if you raise your hand and say, I have herpes, everybody knows what you're talking about.
I have a question, and this might be jumping topics or to the next virus, but I remember a time where you would die from HIV.
Yes.
Is that correct? And then today, it seems that if somebody was to have HIV, they can live their lives normally and they take some medication. And I don't know if they're considered cured or if they're just considered free of that virus.
Right.
Why is that not transferring over to herpes, though?
Well, because herpes isn't the same as HIV. Herpes does not affect your immune system, where it makes your immune system incompetent to handle other infections. We all remember when HIV came out, the most famous person that had HIV was Magic Johnson. Everybody freaked out. He continued to play basketball. I remember at one point he cut himself playing and everybody freaked out about it. And that's really started the educational process of our country and the world to what HIV is. People back in the day when they got HIV died from the illness. There were movies made about this. Now HIV, although I wouldn't want anybody to get it, is very manageable. Nobody's dying from HIV. With a cocktail of antiviral medications, we can actually cause HIV to go into remission where we can't actually detect the virus
AIDS
anymore.
and HIV. HIV is a preliminary symptoms before they get full-blown
Right.
AIDS.
That's
So
correct.
people don't really get AIDS anymore.
They don't get AIDS
Okay.
anymore.
I have a question. So how did he not, I think of immediately when I think of AIDS, I think of Freddie Mercury is
Correct.
who I think of. But
That was a great movie, by the way.
It was a great movie.
Yeah.
how did his wife not get it?
Well,
Cookie.
yeah,
right?
I don't know. It's not automatically transmissible if you have HIV, and maybe when he discovered it, they stopped having relations. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Generally speaking, HIV is due to exchanging needles, sharing needles, and basically male sex.
It's butt sex, right?
Doesn't have to be, but usually it's an
No,
exchange.
because it rips the.
It's
this
an
is what I
exchange.
heard.
It's an exchange of blood that typically causes
Okay.
HIV. So during anal intercourse, there's often bleeding,
Ripping.
and that's the source usually of HIV.
Okay.
So is the reason that they tried to find a cure or whatever it's, I don't know, to
Cocktail.
call it, the
Treatment.
cocktail treatment, is the reason they tried to do that for HIV, but not for herpes because herpes is just not deadly enough?
I think that's probably right. Nobody wants to get herpes, but there's no vaccine for herpes. And isn't it interesting that they've been trying to come up with a vaccine for HIV forever, and within 6 months, somehow they came up with a vaccine for COVID.
Yeah.
Even though they're both viruses.
Yeah, never.
And we've been working on it for 30 years,
Right.
hundreds of billions of dollars spent, but yet somehow they came up with it in 6 months.
There is so much
Yeah, I
corruption in our
agree.
healthcare agencies and our 3-letter agencies. I think we talked a little bit about this the last time I was here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. And never mind that the COVID vaccine does not stop infection, does not stop transmission. And the more vaccines you get, the more likely it is you're going to be injured. There's now evidence that multiple vaccines can actually lead to cancer and all kinds of immune dysregulation.
I heard all about that.
We have all been witnessing young athletes that drop dead on the plane.
What is going on, Dr. Barke?
Yeah.
That's
These
crazy.
football
All
guys,
these football players, these
What's-
young,
That's-
agile.
that's-
surfers,
that's
people just
the-
everywhere.
Spike protein that gets into the body, and there's evidence now these vaccines stay around a lot longer than we think. It's not even right to call it a vaccine. It's not actually a vaccine. But it's the COVID. It's so interesting. I don't know how interesting it is, but it's the first time ever in human history that we have asked the protein manufacturing machinery of our body to create a non-human protein. That's the COVID genetic biologic treatment that we're using. It's called a COVID vaccine. It's not
Is
a
that
vaccine.
the mRNA?
It's messenger RNA, and it's worse than that. It's not even messenger RNA. It's modified RNA. What's that? Messenger RNA we all make in our body zillions of times a day. It's the nucleus of our cell, produces this instruction manual that goes to the protein manufacturing system, the ribosome, 6th grade science, tells the ribosomes what proteins to make. That messenger RNA is very fleeting, only stays around a few seconds. But what the chemists did in the pharma companies that make vaccines, they took an amino acid sequence and changed it or modified it. The reason why they did that is they wanted this messenger RNA to stay around for a long period of time and evade the immune system from breaking it down. Well, they did that, and they did such a good job that this messenger RNA sticks around weeks, possibly even longer.
Wow.
So producing this spike protein, forcing our body to make this non-human spike protein. It's like the movie The Fly, if you ever saw it.
So going with that, I was like, I told you. So I've been doing it for 15 years now.
You have lupus, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I've done everything from Cytoxin to
Sure.
Remicade to everything,
Right.
ups and downs. So 15 years ago, I got put on Benlysta, which is amazing. So every 28 days, I have a nurse that comes to my house and does it like every 28 days. But it's a biologic as well.
Sure.
Is that similar to what you were just saying? Like, I mean, it's obviously made up. The way it was described to me is that it tricks my immune system. Like everybody's body builds antibodies, but mine just doesn't stop.
It's a monoclonal antibody.
Yes.
Yes, to prevent your immune system from producing antibodies against your own cell. And, obviously it's been successful for you, and that's excellent.
So then my other question would be, so I was at Loma Linda when I was first put on it, and they would not allow me to come back in unless I was vaccinated. They would not give me my
Ridiculous.
medication.
Yeah.
And so, and I was so paranoid. Yeah, I told you.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was just like shocked because I was like, I mean, I already take so many meds. I go, they were denying me my medication.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it's a private institution technically.
Yeah.
So they get to make their own rules. And so, I mean, I was so scared. I think I was so
messed up.
paranoid.
That is so messed up.
So I did, not the Johnson, Moderna. Okay. So and I had COVID in the very beginning. I felt like I had COVID again in fast forward motion, all in a 24-hour. And I mean, it lasted for like 4 days. And I go, this is horrific. And so then I had to do one more because they weren't going to let me in until I finished it.
Right.
And it was not quite as bad, but it wasn't great. And so now I'm always scared.
Sure. I understand. My recommendation is anybody that received the COVID vaccine that lived to tell about it should probably go through some sort of detox mechanism. And there are a variety of protocols out there. The FLCCC website has protocols listed right there. Combination of certain nutraceuticals. I also use ivermectin to help people detox as well.
You can detox. So there is hope for those that have had the poison.
Here's the problem. We think you can. We don't have a mechanism yet, an assay, a commercially available assay to check your blood to see if you actually have spike protein. As such, the detox protocols are best guess. We think that they work. On paper, they make sense, but we don't have a way to check you before and then after a detox to see if it was successful. Despite that, though, these detox protocols are pretty benign. So they include things like ivermectin, nattokinase, which is a product that is designed to denature the spike protein, along with other nutraceutical supplements. So I think it's worthwhile to go through some sort of detox protocol just to give it your best shot.
So you're saying is even if it doesn't work, it's not going to hurt you.
Correct.
It's not like taking a bunch of bad chemicals and hoping.
So what was the website that we can go on?
FLCCC, FLCCC. I think that stands for Frontline COVID Coalition.
I'll put it up. I'll
whatever.
find out and I'll put it on the.
And they've got wonderful protocols. They have protocols for treating long COVID, for treating COVID. There's even some protocols now that are emerging using ivermectin to treat cancer. So it's a wonderful drug. It's a multi-purpose antiviral, antibacterial, and now it's been shown to have anti-cancer properties.
Really?
I have several patients. You would know these patients because they're well known. That one such patient has breast cancer. She has chosen not to do the traditional chemotherapy and so forth. Instead, she is using repurposed medication, one of which is ivermectin to treat her cancer. And I certainly support and endorse her decision.
Can I ask you a question about this? Because you've mentioned a lot of different things.
Sure, of course.
So my question is, as far as heavy metals go, what your take on that is, because my understanding is that little kids that are, forced to take all these vaccines, there's high levels of heavy metals in all those vaccines.
Yes.
And then, yes, okay. And as far as the COVID vaccine, are there heavy metals in that particular vaccine?
I don't think they have aluminum in the COVID vaccine.
Okay.
So, I mean, if there's good news about it, there's that. But, interesting, you should bring up vaccines and in particular childhood vaccines. I've got a new book that is brand new.
Yeah, this is your new book.
It is, and I brought that just for you.
Okay, so unsafe childhood vaccines reconsidered.
It's called Unavoidably Unsafe, Childhood Vaccines Reconsidered. My co-host is Ed Geer. He's a retired emergency room physician, a wonderful technical writer. He did most of the heavy lifting. Dell Bigtree's company helped publish that for us. We'll be on the high wire in a few weeks. Kirk Cameron and others.
Kirk Cameron's also involved in the...
And Peter McCullough wrote a foreword for this book. It is really a guidebook for parents or grandparents or anybody that wants to understand childhood vaccines. Goes through all the childhood vaccine schedule and lists the risks, the potential benefits, how these products got to market, what were the studies that brought them forward, and what should parents be thinking about before they put needles in their little kids' arms.
Well, you're the one who brought up, last time I had you on, I was in shock when you had mentioned they were giving children STD drugs.
Yes.
So explain that again.
STD vaccines.
What?
My daughter just had a baby, my first grandchild.
Congratulations.
Claire Helen.
So you're a glampa?
I am. And she chose appropriately to not give her child hepatitis B. Every hospital in the country wants to vaccinate newborns at 2 days old with hepatitis B vaccination.
That's crazy to me.
Hepatitis B is a sexually transmitted disease. It is very, very rare. I guess a child born to a prostitute or a drug addict or something like that might be at risk. But every woman, if they go through a normal pregnancy with their OB and do prenatal care and so forth, they're tested for hepatitis B. So there is no reason to give a newborn hepatitis B.
Do they just have extra vaccines? Like when, COVID had extra vaccines. So they're just like, take this booster, take this next booster. It's like they had so much extra that they're like, everybody take a booster, you get a booster, you get a booster.
There's a money element to it.
Yeah, because it costs
like
pennies to make and they sell it for hundreds of dollars.
That's right. And hepatitis B has 200 micrograms of aluminum in it. Aluminum is a neurotoxin. Why would you give an aluminum to a brand newborn baby? And so we do stuff without thinking. And parents are just so used to trusting the nurses and the doctors that are around them that they don't even think about it. So I don't think any child newborn should be receiving this hepatitis B vaccine, with very, very rare exception. It just is not safe. It's not appropriate. And many of the childhood vaccines are similarly safe.
The benefits don't outweigh the risk.
100%. Yeah, that's right.
So I feel like we're switching topics, but this is very near and dear to my heart. My 4-year-old niece she is free and clear of leukemia. So love you, Stella.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Love you, Stella. And so as far as, my sister works with a functional doctor.
Yes.
And what they did was they found out that my sister and my niece both had very high glyphosate levels in their blood. And apparently there's a book or two out there written about how glyphosate is directly linked to childhood leukemia. So any kind of feedback about that that we can find in the book?
Well, first of all, what are glyphosates? So glyphosates are the chemicals that are often used in pesticides. Probably the most well-known is Roundup. And it's sprayed on our crops. And glyphosates are horrible and they're toxic and we should stay away from them. And it's not just glyphosates. We're exposed to so many toxins. It's unbelievable. That's why I think eating organic is so important, even though the organic market
isn't... And the coffee, you said, you have coffee, a coffee
do.
line.
The organic market is imperfect. I get it. But whenever possible, you should eat only organic produce, fruits and vegetables. And then you should check with your grocer. Are they using that appeal product, that plastic stuff that's over many of the fruits and vegetables to try to preserve their shelf life even longer? That's a Gates Foundation product that they're now pushing. And they don't always have labels. So you have to actually ask the grocer, do any of your products have a peel on it? And make sure that you're using organic. The best thing is go to a farmer's market. Talk to the people that are actually growing the products that you're eating. Or best yet, if you've got the land, grow your own food. That's the only way to be sure that you're getting products that are free from chemicals and pesticides and antibiotics and all kinds of junk. So glyphosates, absolutely. But you bring up an important question. Too often doctors forget to ask, why did a 4-year-old get leukemia? That's not normal. My belief is God created us pretty perfectly. He didn't make a mistake. And when we talk about heart disease and cancer and diabetes and leukemia, type of blood cancer, etc., that's on us. We've polluted our world. We've polluted our food supply. We've polluted our environment.
Is what you're saying?
We are allowing spraying in the sky with chemtrails. You can look this up. There is chemical spraying in our clouds.
It's
Southern
cloud
California.
seeding. Yeah.
They're using, I can't remember the chemical, like aluminum,
It's IO
silver
something.
nitrate or
Silver
something.
nitrate,
Yeah,
That's
I think I heard silver nitrate.
And that's horrible,
So
but
is
we're
this-
allowing it.
Is this similar to, so my stepdad was in Vietnam and he has, is it
Agent Orange.
Yes.
What is Agent Orange? It's a pesticide. It was designed to kill the weeds in the crops so the American soldiers could go in there and do what they needed to do. But toxic, very toxic.
He's
And
had so many health issues.
People that
because of
are
it.
exposed over and over again to Agent Orange, they have all kinds of problems as a result.
There's just so much out there, and it's so scary with our food and the appeal products. And you read about it online. Having being single, wanting to meet somebody. And like, if I was younger, I'd be looking for a husband with babies. And, where do you go to find out what's healthy?
It's
like,
a great
there's
question.
no resource.
You go to a dating app called Uninjected. Yep.
Did it just come out?
It's a thing. It's been out now. We interviewed this gal on my podcast.
That's amazing. Uninjected?
Uninjected.
I knew it was going to come out.
Informed Consent is my podcast. We interviewed this gal. I can't remember her name. I'm bad with names. And she runs a dating site. She lives in Hawaii.
This is amazing.
And it's a round the world dating site. And it's for people that are not vaccinated. And then she goes down.
The blood's clean.
She goes down this rabbit hole of other, conspiracy theory stuff. Like, did the moon landing happen? Is 9/11 an inside job? Like a checkoff list of how conspiracy theory are you? And do you want to meet somebody that's like-minded?
Oh my God. Could you imagine? You've got like the bunker buddy, the true definition of a bunker buddy.
Oh, and she sells swag. So I've got a shirt that says, unvaxxed is sexier.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, technically, and I think about it. And I had a particular individual in my life that was vaccinated, and he regretted it, but he was told to get vaccinated, and he's foreign. And I never could look at him right. And he wanted a son. And I was always like scared, because you hear, like, I have a friend right now, they're both seriously with boosters and everything, that are getting ready to have a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm nervous for them. And I didn't want to say that. I'm just nervous because I'm like, this will be an ultimate test on what's going to come out of that situation.
What are our concerns? Because I don't know if we've had enough, time
we're
pass.
finding babies, women that are getting pregnant that are vaccinated, and men with vaccinated sperm. I heard it was not good.
Miscarriages are happening.
Miscarriages, right?
For sure.
Because your body's rejecting whatever.
The spike protein is highly inflammatory. It causes dysregulation of your immune system. Your immune system doesn't act properly. That's why we're seeing these so-called turbo cancers. So people that have gotten 3 or more vaccinations in particular, we're seeing cancers in higher levels than we've ever seen before, and they're being much more difficult to treat, and they're being discovered at later stages of the cancer.
But if it's, miscarriages, is that pertaining only to the woman or to the male sperm?
Hard to know.
Right.
Hard to know.
Right.
But what we do know is the vaccine has caused miscarriages. Is it because the woman has miscarried, or the woman is vaccinated, or is it because the partner is vaccinated? We just don't know. But that spike protein is horrible and is causing all kinds of problems. More to be seen in the future because we just don't know.
So, one of my girlfriends, one of my dear friends, we went through a wedding and everything. And then her mom, who's healthy as healthy can be, got vaccinated. And within, I want to say 4 months, all of a sudden, she had just had surgery on her wrist. So everything was checked. She was completely clear. And all of a sudden, she has full-blown, the worst leukemia that you can have. She's doing amazing. She went to City of Hope. Thankfully, all 3 of her sisters tested as a match. So she got to choose one. And she's doing amazing.
Did she choose the unvaccinated one?
I was I think they all were, but she is, her doctor at City of Hope was, he honestly said, we didn't want to tell you no.
Yes.
Even though they really didn't think, but it's been a couple of years now and she's doing amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
However, we all started questioning about the vaccine. She goes, I was fine. And then I wasn't.
I know. Yeah. I see that all the time. As a matter of fact, just today, I had a consult with a lady that has had a rash now for 2 years. And the rash came on following her vaccination. She's been to dozens and dozens of doctors. Nobody can figure it out. So we're putting her on a detox protocol using ivermectin, other nutraceuticals, and we'll see hopefully that clears up this rash.
Well, the whole COVID thing and the post-COVID, I like to call it the downfall of our immune system. It's significant. People are dropping like flies. And I think we already knew that was going to happen. Remember when we were like, oh, whoever gets vaccinated, they're all just going to start dropping like flies. We made it a joke. People are like, aha, you got vaccinated, you're going to die soon. It's not a joke anymore because it's actually happening.
That's right. It is.
And it's very sad.
Yep.
And, your closest friend who you didn't know had a vaccine just had a heart attack. You're like, you're in your 40s. Like you're not supposed to have heart attacks in your 30s and 40s.
Right.
And they're just dying. And
well, what's crazy is how we were saying how you see on social media and news outlets, these professional athletes are dropping. And then those are the ones that we hear about. So how many more people are also dropping that we aren't reading about?
Have you seen that TikTok of it shows all the news anchors one after the other just talking and falling over on camera, and there's like a medley of like 10 of them in a row, and it's just creepy to see these people on the air live and they're just falling over left and right.
Of course, they will never tell you their vaccine status.
Of course.
But for every one person that we see fall over and die suddenly when they're young, there's probably 100, if not 1,000 others that similar thing has happened.
Yeah, because if it's happening to them and they're on the news and they're live, they're probably live 1% of their life. And there's that many people. And it's happened a few times over the years, once every couple of years, it'd be like, oh, check this girl out. She passes out in the middle of the show.
That's right.
But now, since the COVID, it happens
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, for sure.
This is interesting, and I want to kind of get into the dating pool, the gene pool. Like,
I'm telling you, if I was dating, I would not date somebody that was COVID vaxxed. Now, for two reasons. I get it. There are some people that were forced and felt like they had to do it. So I want somebody that was brave enough to stand up, raise their middle finger and say, my health and my life is more important than being compelled to do that. And then second, just the risk involved with the vaccine itself and how that might affect me.
When it came to me, in my whole life, I kind of pride myself in at least paying attention to the world. And the medical industry has never been honest. Like I've heard plenty of times, they're the most fined.
The what industry?
The medical industry.
Milk.
The medical.
Oh, medical.
And specifically the pharma companies.
The pharma companies are the most fined companies ever in the U.S. history.
Correct.
For billions of dollars.
That's right.
And they've always lied to us. They've always done us wrong just to try to make a buck. So when this vaccine came out, I'm like, why would I? Like, who's going to trust these guys? They like literally the year before COVID, somebody got like a $500 million fine.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Moderna, for example, Andrew. Moderna's COVID vax was the first vaccine that they brought to market ever, and the government subsidized that. And now the government just gave Moderna like $1 billion to come out with the bird flu vaccine using their messenger RNA platform. Never mind that there isn't person-to-person transmission of bird flu. Never mind that not a single human has died of bird flu. But besides that, the government is funding Moderna to come out with a messenger RNA bird flu vaccine.
What?
And I can't remember what country it is. I think it is one of the Scandinavian countries, might be Finland, where they are now rolling out the bird flu preventatively so people don't ultimately get bird flu. They're using the messenger RNA platform that has been proven to be neither safe nor effective, not stop infection, not stop transmission, but they think somehow with bird flu it's going to be effective.
But isn't it really cheap to make these? The reason that these companies want to start pushing these kind of vaccines is because they're really, really, really cheap to produce.
Well, it's really cheap to produce when your tax dollar and my tax dollar are funding it. It costs them nothing.
Yes, but even per dose, they're pennies versus a standard vaccine is like $1, $2,
right. But why are standard vaccines more expensive? Because typically it takes something like 3 to 8 years for a vaccine to go through testing in order for ultimately the FDA to approve it. The COVID vax was tested for, I don't remember now, but like 3 months. And they rolled it out as if it was safe and effective. I mean, I remember when it first came out, we were told if you got a vaccine, you are good. You will not get the infection. You will not be able to transmit it. The CEO of Pfizer said, our vaccine is so good that even variants will not be able to break through. Anthony Fauci told us that. Walensky from the CDC, National Institutes of Health, they all told us that when we knew different. And now they're admitting it again. Now they're saying, well, the science at the time suggested, but you're right. It doesn't stop infection. It doesn't stop transmission. But the CDC, as we sit here today, don't believe me, look it up, is recommending COVID vaccines for 6-month-olds.
Unbelievable. Well, and I think, Dr. Barke, my questions to you and bringing you on is, it is sort of along the COVID vaccine lines because I don't want anybody that's been vaxxed. I don't want to date somebody that's had the jab. I don't want, but I don't want to have children. So I'm okay if they've had the jab as long as they don't croak in my house and my real estate value goes down. I mean, other than that,
drag them out to the sidewalk.
Just can I drag him over
his heart was beating.
line?
No, I'm not kidding. I was dating a guy that was vaxxed, and that was a concern. If he dies in my house because he was vaxxed,
you have to disclose that, huh?
Yes, if I want to resell my properties,
Yeah.
and I buy properties and fix them up and sell them.
3 years.
3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I did not know that.
What?
So
3
if
years.
somebody dies in your house, you have to claim it for 3 years. After that, you don't have to say anything.
No.
I did not know that.
Takes that long for the blood stains, I guess, to get out the carpet.
No, but okay, so I have this big prejudice on if you couldn't stand your ground and not take that shot. Now, granted, some people were forced, right? But
Nobody was forced.
well, they say like they lose their jobs, or the military guys had to have
You
it.
were forced from the standpoint if you didn't, there would be consequences.
She had to get
and I
it.
get it. You needed the treatment for your illness.
I mean,
and they wouldn't treat you unless you
because
got.
I've been through ups and downs
I
with my
understand that.
lupus, and so
Sure.
I mean, I had so much anxiety, more anxiety than I ever did of doing chemo.
Sure, I understand.
And
that.
it was just, but I was for the longest time, I had this anxiety. I mean, I've kind of like calmed down, but reading and seeing things every day, like TMZ, this person drops, or, Daily Mail. And it's like you're seeing it nonstop. And I'm like, oh God.
So it's time to go through a detox protocol.
Yeah, maybe we
feel
should
more
get you through a
confident that you're
detox.
safe.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, I'm down.
Yeah.
My doctor, ironically, my rheumatologist, if we ever do, he used to be the chief of rheumatology over at Loma Linda, but then he retired, but then he came back out of retirement, which I was so grateful. But he treats with ivermectin.
Good for him. I give him credit. Most people are scared of that drug.
He was gone during COVID. He had already retired at that point.
Yeah.
Are they more lenient now in terms of prescribing? Because I know it was for a time they weren't even allowing that.
I wish I could tell you yes, but most pharmacies, commercial pharmacies, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Save-On, et cetera, still refuse to dispense ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine for the diagnosis of COVID.
So I've been on hydroxychloroquine for 25 years.
Yeah. So recently, I tried to get a patient hydroxychloroquine, and the pharmacist asked for medical records. And I said, medical records? I don't understand. I've never given medical records when I want you to dispense a non-controlled, it's not like it's Vicodin or OxyContin, and a very safe drug that's been around for 65 years with a proven safety record. I don't understand. Why do you need medical records? We want to make sure that you're not prescribing it for COVID. I said, why? What if I am prescribing it for COVID? Well, we don't think it's very effective and we're not going to dispense it.
Oh my God.
I didn't know they had the authority to do that.
I didn't know either. And I said, I don't get it. If I wanted to call in a prescription for OxyContin, you wouldn't say anything. You wouldn't ask for medical records. You'd allow me to prescribe a controlled narcotic, but a drug like hydroxychloroquine that I'm going to use twice a day for 5 days at a lower dose than a lupus or rheumatoid arthritis patient who's going to take a higher dose in perpetuity. And they go, yep, I'm sorry, doctor. We don't think it's effective for COVID, so we're not going to dispense it.
So here's my other question. So ironically, my hydroxychloroquine or Plaquenil used to be like 65 cents from the pharmacy. It is now the same price as a brand name drug. I mean, it's $19.
Right.
But regardless, it used to be 65 cents 3 years ago. And it's not even Plaquenil. It's, and sometimes
Some
it comes in
generic.
different like shapes because it's different companies. And I go, why is it like the price? It's not a name brand drug. This is a generic.
So will insurance not authorize it if the patient's paying cash out of pocket?
It's not insurance. Pharmacies won't even dispense it if they're paying cash.
And who's heading up those pharmacies?
That's a great question. We need to do an independent investigation or something. I don't know. I asked, as a matter of fact, I recorded the conversation with the pharmacist. It was a 10-minute conversation asking question after question after question. Ultimately, she told me that each individual pharmacy and pharmacist has the discretion that they can deny a prescription if they don't think it's safe or effective for the illness.
Well, there's no
But they're not a doctor.
Oh, they're
That
not.
sounds crazy.
And then I said, well, can I
like-
just give you my patient's phone number since you seem to know how to treat this illness better than I do?
Yeah.
You know, and she stayed on the phone with her, and I give her credit because I was badgering her a little bit. And finally I said, let me ask you this. Do you have Plan B? Plan B, of course, is the medication that a woman would take if they end up pregnant accidentally and they don't want to have the baby. Do you have Plan B? And they go, oh, yeah, you know, we have Plan B. So help me understand. You'll allow a woman to kill their baby, but you won't allow a prescription that's going to save their life. And at that point, I got hung up on.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. What pharmacy was this? It wasn't mine, was it?
It was a Rite Aid, not in this community. It was a Rite Aid out of town. It was in coastal mid-state.
So they're going to start having godlike syndrome. What do you call it? God syndromes, where they have power to tell you whether you can have
had
a
no
drug
idea.
complex.
Well,
I would
it's
switch
the-
pharmacies.
It's the old joke, you know, what's the difference between God and a doctor? God doesn't think he's a doctor. But as you know, as a result of my experience during COVID with pharmacies, I no longer use brand name pharmacies whenever possible. I will use the mom and pop pharmacy down the street. I'll use a compounding pharmacy whenever I can, even for routine prescriptions for whatever, for diabetes, hypertension, etc. I try not to use the commercial pharmacies.
I use mom and pop.
Yeah, good for you.
Really? There's such a thing still?
Such a
Yeah.
thing.
I never even knew there was a mom and pop.
We have them
pharmacy
all
store.
over the desert.
I only know
Yeah.
CVS, Rite Aid.
No, there's several of them, right? You know, several of them in Newport Beach and Corona Del Mar, where I practice. There's a wonderful mom and pop pharmacy called Corona Del Mar Pharmacy right on PCH.
Wow.
You guys, I'm sorry, my mind is a little blown because we're just sitting here and just like, you know, casually talking about how the pharmacist just
Denied
played God
treatment.
and denied treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, what planet are
Played-
we on right
What-
now?
what-
Play
when did that
doctor.
start?
Started during COVID.
So now the pharmacist has the right to deny you your treatment because they feel like it's not safe. Maybe because they're not making the money, so they want to sell you something else.
Well, maybe that's part
That's
of it.
what
I
it
don't-
is.
Yeah, that
It's
could be
because
part of
they
it.
know that if you're giving it for COVID, that means they can't sell their COVID medication, and that pharmacy isn't going to make their numbers.
Yeah, of course, there's that repurposed
Bunch of crap.
Pfizer medication called Paxlovid or
That's what I'm-
Paxlovid.
yeah.
And
It's
that's
Pfizer
just simply a repurposed HIV medication. Pfizer makes a COVID vaccine that's neither safe nor effective, doesn't stop the disease or transmission. Then they have the nerve to come out with Paxlovid that's being used under emergency use authorization. And of course, the pharmacies will dispense that like there's no tomorrow, even though that stuff is garbage, often will cause rebound infection with COVID and has all kinds of side effects if you read the packaging.
Well, I think that these pharmacists are scared, like, because they were probably told by the owners of that particular pharmacy or whatever that, you know, those big drug making companies, well, we're going to stop giving you all the rest of your drugs if you don't push this other drug. You need to hit that number or we're going to cut you off completely.
Maybe. I don't know that, but there's definitely financial
There's something
incentives
going
for
on.
sure.
There's numbers, money, like numbers.
But what
It's
I'm-
all CEOs.
My question was, how is it that they're able to charge, like for the insurance? Like I said, it is a generic drug.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, how are they charging now? Like
$16 versus 86 cents.
65 cents, and now it's $19
I don't know. It's a scam. It's a big scam. They can charge whatever the market will bear.
for a drug that's been around for 78 years.
65 years,
Okay.
hydroxychloroquine.
Okay, so let's go back to the STDs. I just
Yeah.
can't right now.
I know. This is like so
Depressing.
Herpes and then COVID, okay? I mean, I don't know.
Let's
If
just
I
go
had
right-
to pick from one
Let's
or the
just go
other.
right into genital
Yeah.
warts.
Let's go into
Right?
okay.
Genital warts. Let's talk
Okay, so
about
what is a wart?
On a
I wanna
happier
know what a
note.
wart is. I thought a wart was a herpes.
No, warts
You
aren't.
said that as a different family.
Warts aren't herpes.
So
I
my
thought they were
question is though,
the same.
after people get the jab, are they more susceptible to STDs because their immune system's down because
Heck yeah.
they had the jab?
Heck yeah.
Okay, so you probably want to mate as a single with someone who doesn't have the jab because they probably don't have an STD.
Uninjected.com, what dating
I like
site.
that correlation there.
I'm just saying because you uninjected.com.
That's where you're going to find your
My
new
value
man.
just went up there.
My value, I know my real estate value just went skyrocketed.
Sorry, Sophia.
It's okay.
You know,
It's okay.
You
She's
don't want
married.
children.
It's okay.
You already have your
I'll tell you,
family.
there's a
yeah.
market for uninjected blood now too. So there are blood banks as well. There's a site I interviewed also where he connects unvaccinated people that need blood donations, breast milk as well. You know, my daughter needed some donor breast milk, and we sought out unvaccinated donor breast milk, et cetera. It's all over the place. There's a parallel industry being formed around whether somebody's vaccinated or not.
Because it would seem that you would want to know, because, okay, so all of these drugs that the pharmacy companies have done their tests with, and we did 200 subjects and at a 299% success rate. So we are going to go ahead and FDA approve it, right?
Right.
Okay. But that's based on the normal human immune and bodily functions. Now you poisoned it with fake proteins. Aren't all of those drugs that they FDA approved null and void now? Because now all those people that got injected have a random protein running in there that could offset everything that they just tested on the human body.
Well, listen, nobody is running around going, I only want to date somebody that has never had a tetanus shot, right? So these COVID vaccines are very, very different. And the spike protein is dangerous. There are many doctors.
Did you get a yeast infection from it?
No,
I'm just curious.
not
Like if
necessarily.
they'll go in there and accidentally leave their love of glory in there. Wait a second.
There are doctors, me included, that have recommended that the COVID vaccines should be pulled from the market, that we should no longer subject people to this, and a thorough investigation, efficacy and safety be launched.
Are they still doing boosters?
Heck yeah.
I never had one.
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh my
even,
God.
like, people are really taking them.
Listen, they're on booster number 8, I think. It might
That
be
is
9.
such a joke.
And how interesting is it that President Biden just came down with COVID? He has fully boosted 8 boosters, yet he still gets sick from COVID.
Is that really Biden, though? Come on, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think that's a guy with a mask on that can't walk.
That's on my conspiracy theory list. How conspiracy are you?
But if they were going to replace them, they'd replace them with someone who can walk upstairs.
Yeah, why do they replace him with some weirdo who can't even walk? I'm like, pick somebody good.
So wait, going back to
And Beyonce, she's fake too. Just so you guys know, she's a drone.
Who is?
Droid. Beyonce.
Oh,
Beyonce
She's a clone.
and the Biden administration are all fake.
Okay.
Those are all
They're
just people.
clones.
The clones are put in there. And I think Biden was put in there just to make America look stupid again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for y'all two single people, what should she look for? Like she's like, you can't go around. Hey, are you?
Is sperm different colored if they're vaccinated? Like yellow?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Oh, do you know though? I wonder
hilarious.
if it tastes different.
Oh my God.
Yep, you've been vaxxed. You're out.
Andrew was like, I am not hearing this at
No,
all.
I'm just
La,
wondering.
la, 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 la.
You know,
You can do that
'cause
experiment.
that's a juice that has to, like, if you're together with somebody intimately, you have juices flow. And if you've been vaxxed, you've got that poison in your juice. And is that poison going to transmit to your juice? And then you're both just poisoned. No?
The spike protein certainly can be transmitted through semen, through secretions. It's been found in breast milk. It's been found in saliva.
Told you.
Absolutely.
That's a general concern.
But
they're giving you that weird
that was a
protein.
great
Will that
question.
spike protein propagate in the new system?
Will it then go into your system and then develop?
Yeah.
So you're not transmitting messenger RNA, you're transmitting the protein.
But will the protein replicate itself?
I don't think so.
Nobody knows,
but it could,
Andrew. It's too
but
soon.
it could injure you. And remember, as I said, we don't really have an accurate way to check your blood or whatever fluid you want to check. Do you have spike protein? There are other things we can check for, like the lipid nanoparticle, which is the transport mechanism of the vaccination. That's been detected in sex organs. So we thought you give a shot in the arm, it stays there locally, causes whatever reaction, but as it turns out, it doesn't stay local in your arm. It can translate and be transmitted all throughout your body,
Your water.
including across your blood-brain barrier.
What does protein behave like in the body? As in, like, is it a toxin your body wants to release, or what's it?
If it's a non-human protein, which
New
is what this
fear
spike
unlocked.
protein
Which it
is,
is.
Barke.
it causes inflammation. Your body looks at it and says, what the heck is going on? We don't know what this is. We're going to launch our immune system against it to try to get rid of it. It is that immune system reaction against that non-human protein that causes all the problems. There are other examples of things in our body that are not human that can cause illness. Breast implants, IUDs, other plastic surgery that puts foreign bodies
Injections
into
or
our
whatever.
body is not good. There's a whole new emerging information field about breast implant illness. For example, there are now plastic surgeons that are doing more explant, removing them,
Yes.
than implants because of what's going on.
When I had a big problem with my last ones, and I had them removed because I this one was leaking, and they scraped it, and there was nasty scar tissue everywhere. So of course, my immune system was weak. I was going through my divorce, and I thought I was just tired. I did not know I had a leak. I did not know I was poisoning myself, and I did not know it was so bad that it was causing my immune system to break down quicker because I was constantly fighting this illness of a leak. And so I recently had him, I was going to have them all taken out, but they were like, no, let's go. I went half the size. He's like, I didn't want to have loose skin and have nothing there.
I understand.
Because they took it out, and that's not a pretty thing to take your big boobs out. Then you got like nothing there. So we put in a new kind. Because, where are these breast implants coming from? Like China? Like who's making these, and why are they?
It depends on which ones you have. They're usually manufactured here in the United States.
Are they? Okay.
But as far as you know, I now recommend all my patients, women patients that have implants, I encourage them, even if they're not ill, to get them out. They're not healthy for you.
I know.
They're not good for your body. And even if you don't have symptoms, your body is reacting to it. Maybe you're lucky it hasn't come to clinical recognition and your body can fight it off, and your detox pathways are open and clean enough to fight that off, but eventually they're going to cause problems.
So can we back up a little bit when you were saying like the transfer of protein? So that is concerning to me, because I was told that as a woman and a man, when you're intimate with somebody, they do leave behind little traces from being intimate, right?
Sure,
and that's how, HIV is spread, sexual diseases are spread, because they say it's a sexual disease because it's caused by intimacy, right? So if the proteins are being transferred, they have to be doing the COVID fake protein is being transferred somehow, however that is. I mean, it's not going to kill, hopefully not, be that dangerous, but it is being transferred then.
It sure is. And your body will react to that as if it's an inflammatory foreign body, for sure.
Wow. So how do you think they're going to, so if you've had to recommend to those who have been vaccinated to get a serious detox, where do they go to learn how to detox from that?
Listen, they can come to me, my website, RX for Liberty. FLCCC is probably the leading repository of detox information. They have wonderful information on there. I use a lot of their protocols. There's a lot of doctors out there that are familiar with and understand how to do this.
Okay.
Can I ask you a specific question?
Sure.
So I know somebody that took the first vaccine. It wasn't Moderna. It wasn't Pfizer. It was like this kind
Johnson & Johnson.
Maybe it was Johnson & Johnson.
AstraZeneca had one out for a while.
It was like they almost found it in some ghetto part of the city. It was like hidden. I don't know. But then they never went back for the second one. It was a 2 series type
so
shot.
It had to be
But that was
Moderna
a traditional
or Pfizer.
vaccine,
Pfizer.
right?
One of the two.
What's that?
The one that she's talking about, not the Johnson. What was the?
AstraZeneca.
Yeah, wasn't that one a traditional?
They tried to, and then they were pulled off the market because they were
But it
found
typically
to
wasn't
cause
available
blood
in the
clots.
US, though, correct?
It wasn't, no.
Yeah.
But the ones that are out there now are all messenger RNA COVID vaccines.
So if they took the first one and then later on they took a form of Ozempic and for like 7 months, but now their body is going haywire, digestive issues, all these issues. And it's kind of going back to your point that maybe your immune system is just collapsing after you get this type of vaccine. And now you're doing things that everyone's doing Ozempic and they're okay, so to speak, but then they're not handling it well anymore. Is this?
Sure. You're bringing up another really interesting topic.
Peptides.
So
Yes.
Ozempic is the brand name of a peptide that's known as semaglutide. Some people pronounce it semaglutide. And it has some really interesting properties, even independent of people using it to lose weight, which is the primary cause. There seems to be some anti-inflammatory properties. There seems to be some neuroprotective properties, et cetera. So people are now thinking about using peptides like semaglutide, not just for weight loss, but to use it for other anti-aging purposes.
Okay, Dr. Barke, I got to tell you, I know you did not want me to take my semaglutides. My whole life I had problems after my divorce. I could not lose weight. I don't eat a lot. I don't eat sugar. I don't snack in the middle of the night. I just can't. When I started taking Ozempic, it didn't do well with me for a month. I couldn't do it. So then you had me try the Mounjaro.
Yeah.
That started working, but now I'm on your pharmacy.
Yep. The compounding pharmacy.
And it's working fabulous.
Yeah.
What's the compounding?
It's
Is it
whatever
a trizepatide?
I went to his
Trizepatide is Mounjaro. That's a different type of peptide.
Oh, okay.
So we should back the horse up a little bit. So what are peptides?
But my mind is clear, Dr. Barke.
I get it.
I don't know what's going on, but my skin is clear. I feel better.
The peptide you're on is not Ozempic. The peptide
No, I'm not on Ozempic.
You're
no
taking
way.
a combination peptide.
Okay.
And it's a combination of
I don't lose muscle, she said.
of GLP-1 or semaglutide.
Okay.
And it's mixed in with another peptide called BPC 157. BPC, Body Protective Compound 157. Athletes are using this to heal injuries. We combine it together with the semaglutide to prevent some of the side effects, to help you lose fat disproportionate to muscle. And so low dose, the Ozempics and so forth that are often used in very high dose cause a lot of side effects and harm people.
I don't have any side effects, and
Wonderful.
my muscles look great.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like, because everyone's like, oh, I'm skinny fat. I'm like, what does that mean? Because I'm working out. My mind is clear. I'm sleeping amazing.
Yes.
I'm wanting to go run now, which I haven't wanted to go run. My knees don't hurt. Like, I don't know what's going on, but whatever she gave me was amazing.
The really interesting part
amazing.
First of all, peptides are so fascinating. We're now actively involved in using peptides in my office. I am using peptides, and I can tell you which ones I use. The state of the art is so fascinating that it's not the pharma companies, it's not traditional doctors, it's all the holistic people, the biohackers, people that are interested in anti-aging medicine that are now coming over to the peptide side. There's so many different peptides that do such wonderful things.
Aren't they naturally occurring, so they can't be not copyrighted, but what do they call it?
Patented.
They can't be patented because they're natural.
Correct.
So therefore, the pharmaceutical companies are having a hard time wanting to push them because they can't control them.
They hate them, and California is trying to ban them. Of course they are.
I was like, of
So
course.
peptides are short chains of amino acids that are strung together. Probably the most well-known peptide is insulin. Insulin is a peptide produced by our pancreas. We need it for life. If somebody is diabetic and they don't produce insulin, we synthesize that peptide and we can give them insulin, a variety of different kinds. Our body produces hundreds, if not thousands, of naturally occurring peptides. We're discovering what they're used for. We are then chemically synthesizing them and using them very specifically. BPC 157 that allows athletes to heal. Some people that need orthopedic surgery avoid it because they use this peptide and their joints, their cartilage, their ligaments are able to heal.
Is that what's going on? Like, literally, I was a runner my whole life. This is no joke. I feel great. I don't know what's going on.
Yes.
Like, my knees were hurting. Like, I'm getting old.
So the peptide she's taking has that 1.5 whatever.
BPC
Because they're trying to
157.
ban it in the United States, aren't they?
They're trying to ban it in California. I don't know about in the United States.
What is the
I bought
reasoning?
3 months worth. I'm
Like,
good
what do
right
they
now.
say the reasoning is?
Load up.
They say the reason is that there's not enough studies, that it's not safe, and that it's potentially
They're just
dangerous.
not making money.
But what they
never-
really mean is the pharma companies can't
make
patent
money.
it.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
not enough money in it because they can't sell it for a lot of money because it's already
Like
available.
Ozempic.
So they can't spend millions of dollars on these studies to show that it's fine. So they're trying to ban it because the pharmacies won't spend millions of dollars to make sure because there's no money to be made in it.
I mean, for example, if you take Ozempic and it's not covered by insurance and you just go to the pharmacy and pay cash, it's like $1,000 to $1,500 a month. If you get compounded semaglutide with whatever other peptide is in it, we use BPC 157, it's like $400 a month. So it's a lot less expensive because there's not a middleman pharma company involved.
Oh, then
And if
maybe you should have told her to tell me that.
And if you know what you're doing, you can create wonderful things. There's peptides that help naturally boost your testosterone and growth hormone, for example. There are topical peptides that you can use. GKU copper. What's that? It's like topical Botox. Women mostly are using it.
Oh.
Some men, you put it on your forehead or your neck or wherever
I've
you
seen
want
this.
your skin to be tightened, and it works. It's a peptide. It's a topical peptide.
Wow.
And where do we get that?
Wait a minute. Let's go back.
I can hook you up.
Okay, I was like, where do we get that?
Yeah, somehow Dr. Barke has like every hookup for good stuff. Like
Well, we
everything
try.
he's recommended to me, even snacks, are amazing.
My office administrator and I, we try the peptides ourselves before we recommend them to patients. We're like, oh, we got to try this stuff. And we try them for a few weeks and we go, this is fantastic. Let's tell our patients about it.
Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation today, not just about dating in Orange County and STDs, but also peptides, how to stay skinny, look hot, and be safe.
Absolutely.
Possibly a little healthier.
No, and you are unavoidably unsafe childhood vaccines. I've never believed in vaccines. I'm not a vaccine person, but I know you have to have them. So the fact that you're educating everybody and what you should and should not put in your child's body in order to avoid maybe them getting handicapped from the vaccine. I've heard a lot of issues
100%.
like that.
I've seen so many vaccine injuries. It's available on Amazon.
Yep.
I think it's a really good read and a great
And they can
reference
go to your
for
website
parents.
too, right?
For sure. Yeah. RX for Liberty, Instagram, RX for Liberty as well.
And where can people buy your book?
On Amazon.
On Amazon.
Or directly through my website.
He is like multi-distributed right here.
That's right.
So ladies, is there any other questions as far as STDs are concerned? We kind of got off topic today, but it was a great conversation. Thank you for watching this episode of Girl Talk. We were blessed today to have Dr. Barke back in the house. So if you have any questions on vaccines or illnesses or anything, go to his website. What was it again?
RX for Liberty.
rxforliberty.com. Go pick up a book, educate yourself. Education is power. As far as like self-education, your own bodies, take care of yourself. Don't just listen to the pharmaceutical companies or the doctors out there. Listen to doctors like Dr. Barke who are looking for the holistic wellness approach versus taking that pill for that solution. Thanks for tuning in. Like, follow, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Peace, love, and happiness. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.